Hey everyone, welcome to another TMC Connect partner webinar. I'm Melanie Thomas, and I'm excited today to have our preferred partner Argyle with us to share how Compass Mortgage is driving faster turn times and reducing verification costs. I'm joined today by Daniel Esquibel, Head of Partner Sales at Argyle, and Kevin Williamson, President of Compass Mortgage. Thank you both so much for being here today. Before we get started, I just have a quick reminder that today's session is being recorded. All attendees are muted, but drop any questions you may have in the chat and they'll be addressed at the end. Now, later this week, a recording of this webinar is going to go out along with a copy of this presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Daniel.
Thank you, Melanie, and welcome everybody. We've got people coming in, but I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'll share my screen here, and we're just going to have a nice, easy, fun springtime conversation, Kevin and I, and talk through their recent experience. We did a case study with Compass that we released a few months ago, and they saw some really great results by bringing in Argyle to their process, and they did some fun and unique things along the way that we'll pick Kevin's brain on a little bit. But as we get going, I guess Kevin, if you want to introduce yourself for folks that maybe don't know you, go for it.
Sure. I'm Kevin Williamson. I'm the president of Compass Mortgage. We've been TMC members for several years now. And my job is to oversee everything operational at Compass, including the loan operations, which this fits into.
Cool. That transition, or I guess there was one of the things that stuck out in the case study that I wanted to get you to comment on as we get started is the Compass motto that Kim Lewis said that your motto is being home to a better mortgage experience. And anything to add to that, or why is that the Compass motto?
These days, there are so many places where a person can get a mortgage, and a lot of people look at it just as a rate play. And the rates are certainly important, but our goal is to create a great experience for the borrower. So they don't feel like getting a mortgage is like a 26-mile death march marathon, but that they feel like it's a normal thing that they can do and that we can help them through it. So everything we do is focused on trying to make the experience for the borrower better, but also getting us the information we want. Some people think that making the experience for the borrower better is just to give them a loan and not ask for anything. We certainly can't do that. We have to verify things, but making their experience with verifying documentation and things for us better is what we focus on.
Yeah, that certainly checks out, as we'll kind of get into in just a minute. But for a high level agenda, we're going to go through a couple different topics. One, the 2026 verification landscape. We're at the start of a new quarter, so some of this information I think we'll have really felt already in 2026, and some probably continue to feel. And then we'll jump into how Compass Mortgage uses us with the blend and Encompass piece there. We'll look at some of the results, and then we'll dive into some practical steps. And if we've got time, or actually intentionally, we're going to leave some time for Q&A because we want to make sure and have an opportunity for folks to ask questions. So we're at 12:04 right now, and we're just going to jump into the first section here. 2026 verification landscape. What, from our perspective, as someone, from where I stand, live and breathe verifications on a daily basis, rising costs of not only just verifications, but of the manufacturing process in general, of rates. Like, it's just more expensive, and it continues to be more expensive to manufacture loans. That rising cost piece is still an issue for almost every single originator that we speak to, whether it's a potential customer for Argyle or current customers that are trying to optimize and continue to drive down costs. One of the things that we've definitely seen more of recently is people leaning into what borrowers are expecting and giving us feedback on that. So we've seen that borrowers are now starting to really expect fast and more digital forward experiences. We're getting feedback from originators that, borrowers are really put out with documentation and the manual uploading of documents. Even if it's done, kind of in a point of sale where you would expect it to be a little bit less friction. Um, Push towards automation. So we continually talk to folks who want to remove not the person from the entire experience of manufacturing the loan, but definitely removing the person from minuscule tasks like ordering verifications or having verifications be delivered, and then of course the focus on accuracy and data as this most important part potentially. As we look at this list, Kevin, is there anything particularly here that you resonate with most, or is there anything that you would add to how you are looking at verifications in 2026?
Well, I think it is sort of bookended well with rising costs and focused on accuracy. The rising costs are a huge deal, and Argyle is very cost effective. So I'm very happy with that. And then the focus on just getting accurate information back, but also the borrower expectations. What I would add to it is just the usability from the borrower. In the
Mhm.
previous, we had a previous solution for this, and in that solution, the borrowers had a very difficult time engaging with the service, right, and getting it done. And what we saw when we were looking at Argyle was that it looked like it was a better experience, and that has proved out to be the case, that it is definitely a better experience for the borrowers. It's easier for them to use, so they can invest a few minutes in getting us the information we need up front and then move on.
Cool. Yeah, that borrower expectation piece is interesting because I think it's largely potentially right segmented on some generational lines on like what you expect from an application standpoint. But to your point, we were talking about when we first started our relationship, some I want to say it was about a year ago. Kim Lewis and I were on the phone, and she had encountered Argyle through the point of sale with something, and she was just able to use a single sign-on authenticator, and she was like, "Hey, this is a big deal for us, So, to your point, borrower usability, having different options, single sign-on being one of them, to use a variety of different ways to connect an account and trigger MFAs, those types of things. Now we're kind of getting into the weeds of the verification landscape, but I definitely agree with that. And that was one of the, I think, as Kim and I were visiting a year ago, one of the things that really drove her to explore deeper into this landscape.
Mhm.
Um, from a kind of now diving into bigger picture stuff, yesterday's verifications, meaning, in the past, verifications have been manual. They've been a lot more time consuming. I think, I've heard stats out there that like the pre-approval process takes somewhere around 7 days to get like an actual pre-approval. That's like the national average. I don't know how true that is. Um, but I assume that those are folks who are using this like manual and time consuming and document heavy experience. Um, have you seen, I guess, from your perspective, Kevin, it feels like you guys are already so focused on improving the borrower experience and making this a, if not enjoyable, but at least manageable and like, digestible experience for borrowers. Have you seen other folks in the industry kind of take your lead on that and move in that direction?
Um, you mean other products that we use, or what do you?
I mean, like from a moving from a document focused pre-approval
Yeah,
experience.
I do think the entire industry is moving toward being able to get, I mean, whether it's assets or income this way or income from assets, which Fannie and Freddie are pushing,
Yeah.
using the bank statements to do that, getting those kinds of t tax transcripts, we can get those electronically now, getting those sooner in the process and having the borrower do a permission-based setup where they can log in and get us the information gets us a discernible format of information that we know is coming every time. We don't get a bad picture from a cell phone or a bank statement that's missing the third page or a VOE that's scratched out and signed by the same last name as the person who we're doing a loan for, and things like that that just make people see ghosts, right? And get concerned about fraud and different things. We have a third party in the middle with Argyle, for example, that interfaces with all the payroll systems and gets us the same format back every single time. And there's a real benefit to that for both the loan officer up front to be able to understand income and for staff when they've turned it in and underwriting to be able to underwrite income.
Yeah. With this area that's in the green, one of the things that for Compass specifically that I feel like was really meaningful, especially in our conversations early on, was this embedded in the point of sale and LOS. And I remember one of our early conversations where you were very frank with me. People don't know Kevin. He's, he's very
I mean,
transparent.
yeah.
He's like, hey, this is only going to work if my borrowers can like do this in blend at some level, right? Um, Talk more about that mentality for you
Mhm.
and why that part of it was so important.
We still originate a lot of loans through talking to people on the phone. About 40% of our loans are online applications, and about 60% aren't. Uh, Maybe it's our loan officers, maybe it's our clientele, but a lot of it still happens with the loan officer taking the application over the phone, either into Blend or into Encompass. But when we deal with the borrower, we want everything that comes to the borrower in the process from us to come from us. We don't want emails from Argyle to the borrower or from someone else because then they question whether they're real, they don't recognize them. We want to tell them that every email in the process that's coming that you're going to respond to is coming from us. And from us means our POS,
Yeah.
and we do use Blend, but it's the same format every time. And what we wanted to do is take Argyle's link and put it in Blend so the borrower has to log in to our borrower portal and in Blend and access the link so that they trust where it's coming from and they know they can click on that. And honestly, I think part of the reason we've had a pickup from the previous, I think part of the reason we've had a pickup from the previous vendor is because Argyle's easier to use for the borrower once they get there. I think that's very true. I think part of the pickup is that we've routed it all through our interface and we don't have, I'm not clicking on that. I don't know what it is because I'm concerned
Yeah,
that it could be an issue, right?
totally. Totally. Yeah. And to be transparent too, I kind of provide even more context on that. So Argyle doesn't have like a native integration with Blend. I want to say that it was, the way that we kind of partnered with you guys, you had an idea on how you wanted this to end up. And you have, a team, you have the resources of folks who were able to work with our team and build out kind of a little bit more custom way so that, again, like you said, borrowers can interact with the environment that they're already used to being Blend in your point of sale, but encounter a new task that is initiating the Argyle experience directly from Encompass. And so all of the data still flows back there. But that was, a second it took us to get that going. And so it was an
Yeah.
interesting
And don't
experience for you
overlook the
guys.
fact we did do work on our end to make that work, but you guys
Yeah.
had to work on your end to make that work too. And a lot of vendors aren't willing to do that. So if you've got a system out there and you want to integrate Argyle with it, my experience was I told them what I wanted and we figured it out. It did take a while. It took a few
Yeah.
months to figure it out, but we figured it out and we got what we wanted. A lot of times that's not no vendors aren't willing to do that. Software partners aren't willing to do that.
Yeah, that was a fun experience. There was some back and forth, but I don't know if David, our CS person, would say that was a fun experience, but I was glad we were able to do it. Um, so now we're going to get like a little bit into some of the granular pieces for the results that you guys saw, and I'll double tap on what you said, Kevin, just a second ago on the last slide, which is there's maybe a couple different reasons why this borrower conversion is as high it is as it is. Um, and part of that is because of the POS experience, which goes back to, I think, more and more folks wanting to have this embedded into some sort of borrower application, right? So there's a lot of different point of sales out there. Having your verification solution surface to borrowers in that same technology leads to better results, is what we found. Like sending from Encompass is good and it can work, but to your point, I think borrowers are always going to have that little like fear factor almost of getting something like an email and like, is this a phishing email? I don't know. This kind
Or
of
they just
strange.
overlook it because they don't know what Argyle is, but they
Yeah.
know what Compass
Yeah.
is because we're doing their loan. So yeah, both those things.
Cool. As we look at, I guess, these two pieces, because I know like for you, both of these parts were important. Do you have, I guess, a comment on when you talk about Compass as the home of a better mortgage experience, how both of these kind of play into that, not only the cost savings potentially for borrowers, but the experience itself?
Yeah, I mean, so the cost savings is definitely important, and that does save borrowers money. But I think in the grand scheme of things, the cost of a VOE isn't largely significant in a mortgage, but the ability to use the application and get it done. I think nothing is more frustrating for a borrower than you want me to log into this thing. I logged in. I gave you my ID and password. They think they give it to you. They don't, but some do.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me it didn't work, and you need to call my employer and get a VOE because it didn't work, right? So that is what I struggled with the previous thing that we use. It's a bad experience. It's, hey, this is going to be great for you. Go ahead and try it. So I mean, 66 is great. I want 80. And
Yeah.
what we're trying to do is push promoting it from loan officers and from the staff. And I know you guys are always working on getting more providers in there and figuring things out, but we want that to get up. In the last 7 days, I actually do have an 80% pull through. It's not a great sample 7 days, but in the last 4 weeks, I'm at 67%. This is the last 3 months. So we're trending up all the time. And getting north of 70, I think, is huge because when you ask a borrower to spend their time on something, you
Yeah.
want it to produce what you said it was going to produce. And you're not going to get 100%, but you need to get a high percentage.
Yeah. That's actually so from my perspective, I see all sorts of conversion percentages. And so I can confirm this is a great one, right? Like it's above our average. We do have a couple of our customers very hands-on with borrowers, super hands-on that see over 70% conversion. Where I'm impressed most is, one, we've done this kind of a with that custom integration, but two, like you're putting, I think, on display this type of mentality that values the borrower's experience in the same level that like you would see at a very maybe like member focused credit union, right? Like we see really high conversion with our credit union customers because they're so driven by that member experience. And you can sometimes lose that from an IMB because I think maybe like it's not as mission driven, but I see that with Compass and obviously it plays out a little bit more in the results. So
Yeah,
it's
and just to
fun
add
to
one
see.
more thing to it, the previous company that we used to do this, we were with for over 2 years, and the best conversion rate I got in the 3 month span from them was 41%. So 66 is a lot better than 41.
It is a lot better. And 41 is not necessarily like it's not bad. 41, depending on how it's being deployed, can be good. But to your point, 66 feels a lot better rolling off the tongue. Um, I don't want to, so we've got about 10 minutes left. And I don't want to come away with like shying away from some of the challenges in a webinar like this. So I'm going to, I didn't prep Kevin for this, so I hope that I don't get dissed on this, but or like just totally destroyed. But as you look at this type of technology, Kevin, and the full landscape, what to you, other than like my borrower just didn't do it. What are the other challenges that you have experienced and things where you're like, I really hope Argyle takes the next step here to make this better?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a little bit earlier, just breadth of access to like uh, payroll information, whether it's through payroll providers. Some of the government stuff is a little bit difficult to get to, and I understand why it is, but just having that breadth of a database so we can be more and more sure that it's going to be in there. I think um, in order for my loan officers to encourage people to use it, they have to see that it works most of the time. And while I understand the how difficult it is to get all of this information, every borrower who works anywhere, anytime to have their information is a big deal.
Yeah.
We need to be able to continue to do that. And I really don't think the ease of use, we tested some ourselves.
Hmm.
We did it in a test environment. I actually pulled my own VOE and then went in and deleted it. But it works. It works like log it into your bank.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's not hard to do if Argyle connects to your payroll provider. So we just have to keep doing that. And then just the general that you pointed out, the general landscape of we all need to get the word out as lenders as these user permission-based verification services are the way we can get better information faster in the process. And so we know what we're dealing with sooner. Because if a borrower tells you they make $50,000 a year, they might, but
Yeah.
in lender speak, they might not, right? Overtime bonus commission, how much time you've had it. So getting that information early and often in the process is key to cutting turn times down. And that's what this kind of thing does. And that's why we're constantly trying to get more and more loan officers. We use it a lot on the staff side, but we usually get more and more on the loan officer side. We're trying to get it more and more up front because we think that's the key to closing loans faster, which is the holy grail of borrower experience.
Yeah.
I closed my loan in 20 days. That is the holy grail of borrower experience. It was fast.
Yeah. And I actually was talking to somebody about this yesterday, specifically on these topics. Somebody who was, is considering implementing Argyle. And one of the things I was like, hey, you're thinking about, cost savings, you're thinking about converting, but what you're not thinking about is how in the market, like one, other loan originators are using technology like this. So if you're not adopting technology in this department, then you are in some regard getting left behind. But also from a sales perspective, what you said really resonates with loan originators because a lot of LOs have great builder business or they've got a fantastic realtor, referral partner, but homegrown referrals from your customers who have a great experience are the best and easiest loans that I ever did, right? And when you have someone who's like, "Hey, you got to go talk to Kevin because he got my loan closed in 20 days and it was a fantastic experience," that changes the game and that customer then like I mean it's super easy. So that's one of the things that I think people when you look at this type of technology, you're not thinking about the big picture of how it can actually affect your business potentially further downstream if you're an individual LO. So I see we've got like some chat questions coming in, but I want to let everybody know we're going to get to these questions. I haven't looked at them, so they may all just be cheering us on and saying like how great a job Kevin's doing and I'm doing. But I'm guessing their questions. This is our last slide. I think before we get to questions, and I'll add here. One of the reasons why folks end up choosing to work with Argyle is here. We're going to send this to you. Afterwards, we have a very robust, like our hands are all in the TMC network. So if you are um, familiar with TMC and you've been hanging out at any of the conferences or shows, then you've probably seen us around. We'd love to have a chat. We really care. I think the thing that I'm going to take away that I'm most proud about from this conversation with Kevin is we care about going the extra mile. And the thing that he said about and other vendors won't do that. I know a lot of great vendors, but it's really awesome to hear that from Kevin, who says, "Hey, we did some work, but we know you guys did some work, and that's meaningful down the road for you guys." So if I'm not going to spend a lot of time giving you guys a sales pitch because we just went through what felt like to me a very fun story for us. But we'd love to work with you, so shoot me an email or send Kevin an email. No, I'm kidding. Don't spam him for references. Um, cool. I'm just gonna skip ahead because now we've only got 5 minutes, and I want to look at these questions. I don't know what we've got here. Um, QA, we had to train LOs, educate, promote. I'm just looking through some of these.
There's
Cool.
one I can answer about blend, the second
Okay.
one too. Yeah, the reason we use Argyle is because, like I said, a lot of our loans don't necessarily originate in blend. Some do, some don't. We do use True Work through Blend, which my understanding is that True Work actually uses Argyle. But those are for online apps. But even when we're doing online apps, my loan officers are very involved, and having them be able to set up a task by just clicking a button in Encompass, which is what we set up a task in Blend for the borrower to do it, is a consistent way they can do it in their process. And we just find that it works better that way. I won't discuss cost, but all I will say is that Argyle is very cost effective. True Work
Cool.
might not
And
be.
For Monica, she asked, does the borrower link expire? We're running into a borrower who puts in the information and then they need to do a vinyl verification. It comes back and says we need to update. So, Monica, a couple things. So, to answer your first question, does the borrower link expire? If you're talking about the initial, like initialization where the borrower is like logging in, that's customizable. So you could set that to like expire after a certain amount of time. If you're talking about the authentication of the actual connection, then that totally is going to depend on the payroll provider. And there's going to be specific instances where you definitely have to go back and, whether it's re-engage the borrower through Blend or through sending them a text through Encompass, where you need, the borrower to re-authenticate. Typically, that's because it needs to have a multi-factor authentication, re-verified or whatever. So at that point, expectation setting at the beginning of the process makes all the difference. But it's a security measure that the payroll provider has implemented, and extra, security for folks, PII is always a good thing from our perspective. Um, and of course, Kevin, add any color that you'd like to any of these questions as I'm answering them. Kate O'Brien says, "What is the average conversion if 66 is higher than average?" It's a good question, Kate. We see a ton of different conversion across our mortgage business. The average is about 55% typically. So we'll see, anywhere from the 66, like Kevin's talking about, and it looks like Miss Chambers is seeing 74% conversion, which we need to do a case study there. I don't know maybe you're not even an Argyle customer.
Yeah, you picked the wrong person for the webinar. Should have picked them.
I'm like, unfortunately, I don't recognize Allison's, where you're from, but
We're coming for you, Allison. We're going to be at 74 soon.
yeah, watch out. Is it only available? No. Orlando asks, is Argyle only available if you have Blend? No, it's actually especially available if you don't have Blend. So there's that. And Kate says we're using it in Encino. So Kate, I'm betting you don't see as high of a conversion, depending on if you're using it as a task or if you're using it embedded. So that might be something to talk about. Oh, okay. So we've got some Fairway Now folks in here. Awesome. Let someone respond. Okay. We integrate with a lot of point of sales and LOSs to the point here. Oh, it looks like John has already answered that. Thanks, John. Um, let's see. Loan Revis. Hey there. That's a fantastic name for this industry. Is a pre-check link you can use to see if an employer bank is accessible? Yes. And okay, Allison's with Synergy One. Fantastic. Great to have you here, Allison. We are at 12:29. We're going to finish on time potentially. Any other questions? We're
I will
seeing
say one more thing. We do use that free
anything.
link when we're sending it out to see if the borrower is in it before we send it out. And if it's not, when we do it on the staff side, we then go a different route for the VOE. So
Yeah.
that may be part of the reason why we're seeing higher conversion rates as well. I just thought of that because we're not sending it to people that we know their payroll provider is not in there. But
Yeah.
most of them
So
are.
that is a good point to just add on to what Lone is talking about here. From Kevin's perspective, we can definitely talk through Lone, or send a link, but he's talking about actually in Encompass, we have that coverage and it's searchable. We'll actually look at, what your borrower has put in the IRLA and try to match it for you automatically from our EPC instance. And so you
Mhm.
can actually send that out directly from Encompass. And Grant, thanks for the shout out. I see you with the 63% success rate. So love that. We're at time, Melanie. I don't know. We could go all
No,
day.
you're doing
Go
so
all
good.
day.
I was like going to say if there was a couple more questions, you had time to answer, but you've done great, Daniel.
Anybody, again, I tried to get some April Fool's jokes in, but they said, hey, don't, we're
No,
not doing
no,
that
that's a
today.
boundary. I'm ending this now. That's a boundary. But thanks so much, Argyle. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Kevin. I think this was really informative. And just as a reminder to everybody, we're going to send this out to this copy of this presentation and the recording to everybody that registered. Thanks so much for your time and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Kevin. Good
Thank
to see you.
you. See you.